And welcome everybody to day 3 of the ISTE 20 conference. I'm Tim Stommer and this is Ruthie Dixon. We're from the conference committee. Hi everybody. And I'm happy to introduce Sam and Ish, who are from Google for Education. They are regional managers for Google for Education, and they're going to talk about learning from anywhere with Google Education. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Hi everyone, first things first, can everyone hear me and see me? Someone please pop into the chat and let me know that all's good before I start presenting.
Everything looks good to us.
All right, awesome then. I'm gonna go ahead and start presenting with you all today. Give me one quick second. Okay, so welcome everyone to the Google for Education Working Together to Empower Learning from Anywhere session. Your host for today will be myself, Sarisha, or formerly known as Ish, and Sam Lieberman. I handle the mid-sized districts, 5 to 40,000 in Virginia, and Sam handles the large districts, 40,000 plus enrollment. I'll be giving the presentation for today, but you'll certainly see Sam pop into the chat to help answer your questions or to direct you more formally to the link at the top here, the slides.app.google4YQ42. If you do have a question today that you want to ask after seeing the presentation or during the presentation, please go ahead and pop that link into a separate tab and answer your question there. You have the ability to send a question as well as upvote someone else's question as well, so we get the most asked questions at the end of the presentation. We're going to save about 5 minutes for you guys to make sure we run through all your questions on time. That being said, if you'd also like, please feel free to put a question in the chat if you'd like to ask your fellow audience members. As Sam and I very well know, sometimes our audience members are even more knowledgeable than us since they're working with the tools every day, and we find that we get a lot of interaction from people just answering each other's questions through the chat. So chat if you want everyone else's answer, and then put it in the slides link if you'd like an answer from Sam and I. So getting to today's session, I'm sure all of you have already seen this, but we thought this quote very, very adequately summarized what we've seen at Google for Education, which is that we've never before witnessed educational disruption at this scale. I personally have been a part of the education team at Google for about 4 years now, and this is the first time that the entire team has had to redo, as I'm sure many of you have too, our entire processes, figure out what we need to do differently to support students, educators, education leaders, and as importantly, families. And what we found is that everyone right now is learning on the go. Students are trying to figure out how to learn in a home environment or a hybrid environment. Parents and guardians are becoming somewhat teachers in their own right, understanding how to set up distance learning procedures in their home. School leaders are, as ever, trying to communicate with parents and guardians in this new virtual hybrid world and determining how to get devices to each and every student, even with the constrictions of Wi-Fi or inequity, etc. And of course, if we have any teachers out there, teachers we found are the ones we're talking to probably the most at this point, figuring out how to teach their course material in new ways, effectively managing and engaging classrooms, and really figuring out how to return in a hybrid model if that's the way they've chosen to go. So with all of that change at Google, our goal is to help educators and students everywhere, and specifically what that means for us is figuring out how to succeed in home and teaching and learning environments, creating solutions that are designed around feedback, as well as supporting educators with best practices for distance learning and facilitating best practices around hybrid learning for learning from anywhere approach for now and for going forward. And we've done this usually with our tried and true Google approach, which is we spend thousands of hours in schools. We've specifically these past 8 months spent a lot of time just gathering practical feedback from educators and students themselves, as well as using that feedback to build helpful products. And what we've seen from teachers and students alike is just kind of this uproar about the different products we released, as well as the feature sets and how much we've been able to really impact going from a in-person to hybrid or to fully virtual set. So what we want to do today is now that we've kind of set the stage for what this session will be about, it'll be about learning from anywhere, specifically with Google tools. We want to give you guys kind of a mix of 101 and 201 in this session. We're going to tell you guys, based on our sessions with teachers and education leaders, which products specifically from Google for Education we've seen have taken kind of just this uproar and uptick, I guess, in adoption. So we'll run through kind of what those products are. For those of you who might already be familiar with those products, we're going to give you guys a quick 201 and saying what has been newly released from those products, as well as giving you guys a good distance learning tip that we're hearing from our families and our teachers and our students out there. So hopefully we'll give you guys, whether you're coming in completely new to Google for Education, whether you're coming in with a little bit of background, you'll be able to walk away with something new to help you guys go back and use the Google tools even more effectively after this session. And again, before we go ahead and dive into the product slides, I am going to give a quick pitch here. Make sure to put this link, slides.app.goo.gl/4YQ42 into a separate tab. It is case sensitive, just so that we can get your questions answered at the end of the presentation. All right. Now that I've set up for this, I'm going to pause for a little bit. I'm going to slow down just so we can effectively go through each product slide. As you probably aware with Google, we have a couple of different product suites. However, today will be solely focused around G Suite for Education. If you're not familiar, G Suite for Education has a couple of different tools in our toolkit, if you will. We have Gmail, Classroom, Docs, and Drive. The basics of G Suite for Education is that it's meant to be a collaborative and cloud-based product suite. We have machine learning features built in, and we've had multi-layered security as well to make sure it's really safe for your students, for your admins, for your teachers to use. And what we're really excited about, and I'll spend a little more time today, is focusing on our Google Meet features, because we've just recently released a couple ones in November, as well as the last few months. Okay, let's dive into each product. The first one, which I'm sure you guys might be familiar with, is Google Classroom. Google Classroom we've seen growing adoption of Google Classroom in the past 5-6 years, but specifically since April, since COVID happened, we've seen this crazy uptick in numbers of people wanting to learn about Classroom. So if you aren't aware, Google for Classroom is kind of your one-stop shop. It's an easy way to create, grade, and collect assignments and provide feedback using our built-in grading features. A lot of people, when they're just getting started with Google for Education, I find that they like to start with Classroom because it's a nice way to figure out how to organize your classes in one stop, how to create assignments, how to have like that lightweight system to really organize all the features you need to run a classroom effectively. Some of the key features that we've released, I think we wanted to specifically highlight. We released a new grading tool sync feature, which syncs test results and feedback in one location. You'll see that on the assignments page. So if you go to create assignment on the top right, you'll see some new grading features that you can kind of play around with. And we find that this really helps to centralize not just giving the test result to students, but also the feedback on why they received this grade, why they received this result, etc. So make it a little more streamlined than we've previously had it in previous versions. The second feature, which I've just heard so much great feedback about from our teachers and students, we created classwork pages that will now organize assignments into modules, which has been really helpful just from an organization standpoint, but also as a byproduct, it really frees up that streaming section for class discussion. So what we see now is that teachers and admins are able to use that classwork page to say, here are the different modules we're going through in our classroom, here are the assignments underneath those modules, but also now let's go to the stream section and let's have a different class discussion on, a topic in biology, topic in math, et cetera, et cetera. Making sure we kind of keep those features separate, but very, very well utilized. The next one, which you may or may not have heard of, is originality reports. So originality reports are meant to analyze authenticity using search, where it's meant to identify any kind of plagiarism that might be happening. So teachers have been using it specifically, I think, in literature classes. We've seen a lot in literature and English classes. We've seen a lot of different usage and good feedback around it. It also flags the need for citation. So just past, being able to see, hey, how authentic was this report that, a student turned in? They're also able to say, this specific report needs a couple different citations to really identify the source of the knowledge. And then the last one I wanted to point out here was a comment bank that really allows teachers to give better feedback and faster. That comment bank, as we all know, if you're an educator, I was an educator for a few years before coming to Google, that comment bank really allows teachers to have that one-on-one interaction, especially in a virtual environment, to go back and forth and say, you know, maybe consider doing this differently, maybe consider adding in a different resource, you know, this section needs a little bit more support, and gives that one-to-one communication with students. So again, that's what one of the biggest products you've seen take usage, Google Classroom. Wanted to highlight a few of the key features here for you. And a quick distance learning tip, we are going to go into this in another slide, but we released the ability to create a Google Meet straight from Google Classroom. And we actually linked in the how to get started guide on that to learn more. So once we jump off the presentation, you're able to download this presentation from Sketch, I believe. You can kind of hyperlink into that. You're also able just to Google search how to get started with Google Classroom, and you'll see all the who's and what's nots of getting started, as well as how to create a Google Meet specifically fun classroom. Okay, feel free to put some questions in the chat or put some questions into the slides link. I'm going to move on. The next product we've really seen take usage is assignments. Some of you might have already learned about this, but assignments is it's a way to quickly and securely create, analyze, and grade coursework within your LMS while helping students to learn more effectively. I kind of mentioned a few of the different features here, as well as the grading tool sync. You can probably follow the GIF right here of how to create an assignment. Just go to create an assignment, select the course for which you'd like to create the assignment, title it, add in anything you need, and then you're there to go. We've seen with assignments that originality feature, as I mentioned before, has been really effective. However, another feature that you really want to be aware of is that rubric feature. So recently we released the ability to create a rubric and be reused across assignments for grading and feedback. This way, as you know, your students know what they're being graded on, as well as what the grade is for each rubric feature. And with that, we found that comment bank has been very key because it allows teachers to give feedback on, you know, where in the rubric a student might have fallen short, or maybe where in that rubric a student has really exceeded expectations. And the last thing we want to say is we created a direct integration with your learning management system. So definitely take a second to look at assignments as well as your learning management system, because you should be able to use assignments within your learning management choice. Quick distance learning tip here, you will have the ability to organize coursework by both class, date, and student, as well as generate new assignments using Docs and Drive to provide students a unique copy. We went ahead and hyperlinked the assignments tool page here. So again, feel free to either go ahead and Google search assignments to get more information on how to use this within your Google Classroom. Or feel free to just wait until this session is over. You can look at the Sketch app and be able to download the presentation from there. All right, just want to be mindful of time here, about 10 minutes before we have to jump into questions. The big one, I'm going to spend a little more time here on this one, has been Google Meet. As I'm sure everyone has had to figure out, how do we have a virtual video conferencing system for our school? And I will tell you, just to pause from this presentation, on Google looking inside at how people have rallied around our Google for Education products, we have seen more engagement from the Google Meet team about working with educators, working with students to really release features and really take feedback on what needs to happen next to make sure we're meeting all of your needs. So hopefully you've seen a change in Google Meet from March to now in all the different features we're releasing. But that being said, we really encourage you guys, either through this presentation or through a separate feedback tool, to give us more commentary on what you need from Google Meet so that we can continue working with our product teams and getting you the best features possible. So really quick, a few key features, and I am going to talk about the ones we just recently released in November. We've had a few premium Meet features like Breakout Rooms and attendance tracking, Q&A and polling, and more with our GSuite Enterprise for Education. So with these, you're able to, for example, Breakout Rooms, go into a Google Meet, however, separate that Google Meet into separate breakout rooms. This has been really great talking with my teachers and educators. This has been great in terms of, you know, giving a lecture, but then also letting students dive into a work group on their own, give them a few question sets, and then be able to come back to a larger meet to kind of learn and share from each other. We have released some new features in November specifically, so this is probably just a few weeks ago, where you're able to dial in directly to a breakout room. That way, if a student, for some reason can't do video conferencing, they're able to just quickly dial in a number and still have that interactivity. The polling feature, I'm not sure if anyone has really been able to use this, but I wanted to call it out because I found it very valuable. It's the ability to poll the Google Meet to ask a basic question. If I wanted to use it right now, I'd probably ask you guys, hey, how many of you have probably a level 1 introduction of Google for Education tools, just to kind of get a pulse of where we stand with Google and direct the conversation in the right way. Few other key features here. Students aren't able to rejoin meetings after instructor left. I will tell you that Sam, Elle, and I have actually just met with the CLIP advisory board at Virginia, and we're finding every day that students are incredibly talented, and they're still trying to find ways to rejoin that meeting. And we are working diligently to make sure we catch all those different ways and ensure that really an instructor has control over who's in that Google Meet, and it can't be started without their permission. But I will say, just to be completely transparent, we are continuing to work on making sure there isn't a workaround way for students to do that. And the last thing to call out here is that students aren't able to rejoin meetings after only meeting creators and calendar owners can mute or remove other participants, as well as approve requests to join made by participants outside the school domain. A recent feature we just released is the ability to bulk approve requests. So I'm sure everyone's been in that Google Meet where you're constantly individually accepting. And now you have the ability to bulk accept all at once in case you want to be more efficient and just let everyone into the Google Meet. By the numbers, we've seen a crazy amount, 100 million daily meeting participants. And I mentioned this before, but you will now have educators have a dedicated meeting space for each class, using that Meet link displayed in the classroom stream or classroom pages, making it easy for both teachers and students to join. Quick tip here, we have a lot of great information resources in our teacher center. You may or may not be aware of this, but alongside our products, we have a great tool online, Google Teacher Center. We create a lot of good PD, a lot of good distance learning tips, a lot of good features that you just might want to know for a quick and easy, hey, how do I use these tools in a distance learning environment? So again, Google search, Google for Education Teacher Center, or wait for the presentation to be uploaded, and you can hyperlink to that site, get all your information there. All right. There we go. A few more different Meet features here. You'll have a tiled view of up to 49 people. I think I mentioned most of these. I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but I will dive into the ones I think I've heard have been really useful. The custom and blurred backgrounds a lot of people have been using, especially if you're worried about what's in your background setting. You don't want to scramble to make sure everything's nice and clean. We give you guys the ability to blur partial or all of your background, or you could choose a completely different background, such as an office setting, a living room setting. And I will tell you, since it was first released to now, we've seen just an amazing ability to even have it seem super lifelike. So oftentimes I even will go to our internal Google meetings and I'll see a completely different background, not even knowing that it's a Meet background. One cautious tip for you, if you do choose to use a custom and blurred background, just be prepared that your Meet experience might run a little bit slower than you're normally used to. So just keep that in mind if you decide to test out this feature. You also have the ability to filter out disruptive noise on Meet on mobile as well. For specifically if you're trying to eat lunch while also giving a lecture, or if you're trying to eat lunch while having a quick conversation with a colleague. What I found has been really useful is you no longer have to mute yourself every time you're eating. You can continue going and Meet will automatically filter out that background noise. And the last one maybe here that I want to call out is the integrated Jamboard, Jamboard whiteboard for collaboration. If you haven't used Jamboard, I definitely encourage you to test it out. It's kind of your way to have an interactive Jamboard, have a jam session, as we call it at Google. So you can have a brainstorming with a fellow colleague online on Meet. And we've integrated that experience so you can do 2-in-1. All right, interest of time, I'm going to move on here. Google Forms. I'm sure everyone has heard of Google Forms, how we released a few key features that you might want to be aware of. So if you haven't, Google Forms is your way to make grading faster, easier, and automated. Obviously, a lot of teachers use it for grading. We also use it internally at Google just to get a quick pulse from our fellow colleagues, our leadership, etc. So you can create forms, you can create surveys and quizzes to really collect and analyze responses. And we actually put in a lot of good machine learning into the platform to help it be even more efficient. A couple of the features that I want to call out, locked mode has been absolutely key in your giving quizzes to students. Lock mode prevents students from browsing other sites during a test. So once you enable lock mode and you submit the form, a student isn't able to go Google search other answers or get tips elsewhere until they submit that form fully. So it helps just to make sure there's integrity in the quizzes and grading process. We also put in a lot of great GSuite integration, so it allows you to import questions directly from Docs and Sheets, hopefully streamlining our products together. So if you are using Docs and you're using Sheets, you don't have to create the form again or create the quiz again. You can integrate the two and send out that form directly. And the last one, which I'm personally super excited about because it really integrates that machine learning feature we keep talking about, you're able to view results instantly in simple charts or graphs as a spreadsheet just to see how many of your students are doing well in one area, if there was a specific question where students were really struggling with, or if there's maybe a specific group of students who are struggling with the quiz. It really helps to kind of analyze the results that much quicker and faster so that you can take action. Our distance learning tip here for Google Forms is if you're into social emotional learning, as I know we all are now, we've seen a lot of teachers use Google Forms for mood check-ins, just asking students for what their emotional state is, what are their daily goals, what are they proud of, what are they struggling with, to ensure that just past the use for quizzes and surveys, we're able to get a quick pulse check of how our classroom is feeling on any given day or period, just to keep that in mind as we create a proper learning environment. Feel free to visit Google Forms training for more information. This site has a lot of good information around what is Google Forms, as well as tips and tricks of how teachers have used Google Forms in their classroom. Okay, just a quick note, I'm not going to spend too much time here because again, I want to save enough time for questions at the end. You may be aware of GSuite Enterprise for Education. GSuite Enterprise for Education, or GSEFI, as we like to call it internally at Google, is one of our paid product suites. So if you're interested, definitely reach out to Sam and I. It has a lot of great robust security admin controls. It has some advanced video tools for Meet, advanced originality reports. You also get 24/7 support by phone, email, or online. And we specifically, what I've heard from my districts that I work with daily is those security features, especially in a distance learning environment, has been really key for them, just to have more granular insight into how the tools are being used, what tools are being used, or the ability to flag any kind of behavior that needs attention called to. With Google Meet, you're also able to record your meetings to be able to share with students later on. So that way, if you want to record a lecture and then send it out later, you have that ability in GSuite Enterprise for Education. All right, I kind of ran through what the core GSuite products were that we found have been really helpful in this Learning Anywhere environment. But Sam and I, when we were preparing for this presentation, we also wanted to give you guys a quick nod as to what's happening internally at Google that might not be in our core GSuite platform, but some really great, what we call 10X products. These are innovative, still being worked on daily products we put out there, even used outside the Google for Education classroom setting. So two of the ones we wanted to call out are Socratic, because they might not be very well aware of. So Socratic is Google's AI, artificial intelligence powered tutor, which provides targeted learning that helps students navigate learning roadblocks and master academic concepts. I believe Socratic is available for literature, I think literature, math, science, and 2 other subjects. So what it does is it's a virtual tutor, basically. You can go on, pick a topic, and it'll kind of assess where you land on that topic and give you guided feedback, suggest resources for you to peruse, give you little quizzes. So it's able to be really one-on-one with the student and help them really be targeted in offering diverse results, diverse concepts to make that student's learning grow to where they stand today. A couple of the key features here, it enables voice and photo input questioning. It has high quality videos and concept explanations, and it has curated subject guides for a quick reference. So again, especially valuable for those students like me who maybe don't learn super well just reading and answering, but really need that visual one-to-one help to really excel in their learning environment. Students can use Socratic for quick answers when they don't have direct access to their teacher. So again, do a quick Google search to Socratic or use the link here to learn a little bit more. The second product we want to talk to you about, which is in more of our 10X category, is Readalong. Readalong is specifically a reading tutor, which provides personalized assistance to help students in their reading journey. When you use Readalong, you'll find there's an expressive reading assistant. So as a student really reads aloud a sentence and a story, that reading assistant can help them create the correct guiding knowledge. It provides feedback and really helps them become comfortable in speaking aloud and reading to themselves. In 2020, we saw Readalong launch in 180 countries in 9 languages, and has really helped improve the literacy skills as well as their voice to read and learn anytime. Quick nod here for communicating with supporting families. I'm not going to spend too much time here because, again, I want to make sure you have time for Q&A. But if you're interested in learning how to communicate with families using Google for Education, look up these Guardian Guides to Google tools specifically for each product. We have a lot of great email templates and all get resources. Feel free to check it out on your own time. I mentioned this before, again, want to just quickly note it. We have quick links to our Teacher Center, which has great webinar series for how to use Google tools in a distance learning environment. We have tips, tricks, best practices, as well as just step-by-step guides on how to use our tools.
Excuse me, I'm sorry for jumping in here, but we only have a few minutes left till the end of the session. Just want to let you know.
Okay, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
We can run a little bit over since we're not backed up to another session, but just wanted you to know.
Nope, I think that's great. I think the last 2 slides we can kind of skip over. Sam, are you there? Maybe awesome.
Yeah, let's put over some questions.
Cool. I'm going to stop presenting this slide, and I'm going to start presenting the Q&A.
Sweet. Thank you, and thanks everyone. We have some great questions here, some of which dovetail nicely with what's come up in the chat. So we're going to take these in kind of order of votes. I think Isha, if you click that black box down there, it'll reorder them by the number of votes. There we go. All right, we're gonna tackle what we can. So is there a co-teacher feature coming for all classrooms? The short answer is yes. So additional moderators is a feature that's coming in 2021. I believe probably in the first half. We'll be announcing a lot more about our product feature release lineup in February of 2021. So the teams are right now working on slotting everything and sequencing it, but that's certainly a top request and something that's made it on there. Ability to record breakout rooms will be coming soon as a subjective term, probably not as soon as you want it. That is one that is a lot more kind of resource and storage intensive, and so just not going to happen as soon as some of the other features that are coming, but it is on the roadmap. Are there updates coming to features of Jamboard, such as allowing students to not edit or tracking what is added by each student? So I'm very pleased to share, because I haven't been able to say this in the past when it's come up, that imminently revision history will be available for Jamboard. So that means you'll be able to see who added what. There was a question in the chat with regard to how can you see who the collaborators are on a jam. And it's a little tricky in the sense that often you'll share a link and say anyone with the link can edit. And in that case, the only way to see who has contributed is through the revision history. But if you click the share button at the top, if it's been shared only with individuals, you'll see who those individuals are with whom it's shared. Otherwise, the revision history will give insight. And that's slated to land either January, possibly before the holidays. I know they're pushing to get a lot out, and it's just a question of what makes it before the holiday code freeze. In Google Meet, is there a plan to be able to record the breakout rooms? We covered that. Yes, don't have a firm timeline, unfortunately. Co-host feature, yeah, there's a lot of use cases. I mean, from the most, there are just many use cases for this. It's a top request. I'm excited that we will be launching it in the first half of 2021. And again, in February, we'll probably be able to offer more specificity on exactly when we expect things to go live. Google LTI assignments in Canvas. How do I keep observers from receiving the assignment with the student? When I review what is submitted, I see all people. I have follow-up questions on this question, Teresa, so let's come back to it and just to make sure I understand it and address it well, and we can tackle it at the end. When a meet ends, it would be nice to auto log out students. if you remove them, they can't rejoin the next day if they've been removed twice from the same class. When will there be a fix to this? So also good news, in January, we will launch End Meeting for All. So when the teacher clicks the hang up button or the end meeting button, they'll see two options, just leave or end meeting for all. And if they end meeting for all participants will be ejected, and including if they're in the join screen, like green room, everyone will be ejected, and the quick access, the new quick access controls will be shut off. So no one will be able to rejoin. So that's another top request that is getting addressed. It's actually out in beta now in a couple of districts and will be out generally in January. And this, yes. We are using GSuite, but not Classroom. Are originality reports available outside of Classroom? Yes, they are. They're available through assignments. So if you're using the assignments LTI, the access to originality reports varies for the free version of GSuite for Education. It's 5 per course, 5 assignments per course. In Enterprise, it's unlimited. We can link to the presentation. I popped and we'll put it in again on our Schedule page in VSTE. It's not super prominent just in terms of the layout of the page, but there is a link to this presentation, a PDF, but you're able to access all of the links to resources that we've compiled here. Google Meet. There have been some instances of teachers who create a Meet using a nickname and do not have control over a Meet. Is this okay? Is this a user issue or a connection issue? Hard to know. There are a number of things that could happen. Most likely, most common scenario here, and assuming it's another staff person and not a student who has control over the Meet. I don't know, Julie, if you want to clarify, but if it's another staff person, the way it works currently is if a person, a user who has meeting creation privileges as determined in the admin console. So we strongly recommend that students not have meeting creation privileges. But when the first person who, sometimes students, sometimes staff, like you said, hard to tell. If it's a student and if you have meeting creation privileges off for students, I would open a ticket because that shouldn't be happening. What I suspect is happening is also where it's staff, if they have those privileges, and they arrive first at the Meet, then they become the moderator. The real fix for this in my mind is the multiple moderator feature, because then it's not moderator capability isn't scarce. Multiple teachers can have it. But if a student arrives first and it's a nicknamed Meet and they're able to start it, that is not expected behavior. So long as the settings are, as you said, that they don't have the ability to turn them off. And I think, and Julie, I think you said LCPS, if you also, folks, your districts may have Google reps. I work with Loudoun County, each works with a number. So certainly more detailed questions, we're always happy to take offline, among us as well. Google Forms, if a teacher attaches it and anything else to the assignment, the form grades will not automatically upload to the Google Classroom gradebook. So if this is, Yolanda, you may want to open a ticket if it's not behaving as expected, just because that is a signal that it should be investigated by someone technical. So, to the extent that I don't know if this is a bug, I just don't know off the top of my head. If it is, it may or may not be known. So I would definitely open a support ticket where anything's not behaving as it should. And I realize sometimes it's hard to know with the features changing so rapidly. But that would be my recommendation there. I know we're 3 minutes over. I'll kind of do 2 more. Tim, is it okay to do kind of 2 more minutes of answers?
You might remind them also, there is, Google has a channel in Discord where they can contact you there, leave messages there for you.
Sure, that's the vendor hall, the virtual vendor hall.
No, this is the discussion tool that we're using here. They sent you all the information about it.
All right, we will be sure to check that.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, for sure. No, of course.
Go ahead and finish it.
Yeah, so okay, so I'll rifle through a few more here. Be able to mark assignments complete for students. That is also a top feature request that I know is known by the known by the classroom product team. So this is the ability to basically say this assignment is done. There's no more submitting, resubmitting, returning, and all of that. So that is a known feature request. I don't know where it is on the roadmap, but I do know that it's something that's being weighed for the 2021 roadmap. Will breakout rooms be available to basic G Suite for education? And if so, when? I do not anticipate that is going to happen. And the reason for it is, the whole principle with G Suite for education and having a paid version is that, when we started out, it was really just kind of repurposing the same tools for use in somewhat similar ways in schools, particularly with the growth of use in video and something like breakout rooms, which is incredibly storage intensive just in terms of the video that's needed. Google can't sustainably offer that for free at scale. And that's a big guiding factor into how we determine what to charge for, whether we can confidently offer it at scale and sustain it. So I don't expect that will come to the free version because it is very resource intensive as a video application. Many of my teachers are organizing their classrooms with the week being their topics, and they place their weekly assignments underneath. They would like to be able to have subtopics. That's a great feature request. So, and we're taking notes here, and we have these questions to go. I also want to highlight that, there is in every Google application a place to submit feedback, or sometimes it'll say report a problem, which I don't love that framing. But I do want to be clear that the product teams do read the feedback that comes in. Like, they generate reports every month of these are the most frequently requested things. So please do use that as another mechanism for reporting feature requests, because it's a big driver of what gets prioritized. And then last one I think we'll get to, Socratic and Readalong available on PCs and Chromebooks. I believe Readalong is just for mobile. Let me, hold on one sec. And I don't know if you know off the top of your head, Ish, let me see. No, they're both iOS and Android. So, and we highlight these, as Ish mentioned, just knowing that you're coaching and advising your students and families on learning beyond what you're teaching in the classroom, and it's a helpful wraparound set of tools. So I know we're over time. I thank everyone for the feedback and questions. Oh, Eric, I said we'd answer your meat question. I'm glad it was helpful. Students using the nickname meat very quickly. After losing connection, they should knock to get in. The very quick answer on the looking up your nickname, there's nothing wrong with we using nickname meets is great. The thing to remember about them is that they're basically redirect codes to an underlying meet URL. So they don't expire, they connect to different underlying URLs. So if you and I are the same meet code, we go to the same place. I know we're way over. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
that was
everyone.
a rush there, you guys.
Yes, I was just like, wait, there's another
packed
question.
an awful lot in there. And thank you very much. Thank you, Sam and Ish. We appreciate all the information. And as I said earlier, you can connect with them in the vendor hall. And I don't know if you saw the Discord channel, but there's a discussion area for Google in there. I don't know if you want to try that. Anyway, thank you to everybody for attending. Just a reminder that we have another session at noon today. Check out the different sessions there. And then don't forget about the spotlight session at 5 this afternoon with Lynn-Mara Colon, and it's going to be a wonderful discussion there. And then we have 2 full days of sessions left, Saturday and Sunday. We hope you can join us for that. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording here.